and secondary to what makes it sellable if you're marketing to people who won't normally qualify for those type of mortgages. If they're going to use an FHA program, if they're going to use a down payment assistance program, make the property available, market that, and you'll have more success selling your properties than you will if you just make it pretty and then lower the payment of the purchase price. Why lower the purchase price if you can market to a larger group of people? How do you negotiate with the transactions? If you have a base of knowledge that you have learned these techniques. By the way, my 15-second commercial here. If you want to learn more of these techniques, we have classes. Jumpstart, that's the basics of this. Asset protection, to make sure that you're protecting your assets and doing it so that you yourself are not going to be liable for the responsibilities that you have. You can do it in an LLC, or how to protect the existing equity on your house. Unlimited financing. This tells you different ways that you can purchase properties, but it also educates you on the different ways that buyers can purchase from you. You should be, in buying any transaction, putting mortgages on your property that are easily and readily accessible for the buyers that will buy them from you can take over. Doesn't it make sense? Shouldn't you put the mortgage in place that can be used by generation after generation of buyers that come in without you personally being liable for it? Buying it at an LLC, allow someone to take over, sell on contract. It makes your sales that much easier. And by the way, less expensive, because if you can list a property in the paper with great terms and it's a good-looking house, do you really need a real estate agent to sell it for you? Yes?
I'm not quite understanding that.
Okay.
You say a mortgage debt protection from generation to generation. That would not be a conventional mortgage you're talking about?
Okay, I'm going to repeat that. You're saying a mortgage that would be available for generation after generation is what I just talked about. Let me give you an example of that. Neil, if I sold you my house and I put it on an assumable mortgage, and you bought it, and you bought it with those terms on it, you would know that you can assume, someone else can assume this mortgage. So that would describe the next generation of buyer. So you then turned and sold it, and you sold it to your son, and it was a house he lived in, and so he bought the property and assumed the payments on it.
More for future reference, because those,
yeah.
I've entered into contracts that are not related with the end point.
Right, okay, so you have conventional loans on houses that you have. Now, so what you have on it since January 1st of 1986, long time ago, fresh out of high school, and the government did something to us. And they said, hey, wait, all these real estate investors, they're trading these properties. Someone's in trouble with a property and want to sell it. Why, it's just $50 for an assumption fee. And whoever's holding the mortgage will let somebody else start paying on it. And they sell the property. Why pay off the old mortgages? Right? Why not just keep them on there? Someone qualified, the loan's already on there. Allow somebody, as long as they qualify, $50 and transfer it over. That made property highly sellable. But what it also did is cut down on the banking fees. The truth is, if a bank makes points on a mortgage when it lends you the money, and then the same bank or another bank pays off their own money with new money they just loaned, they make points twice, don't they? Instead of a $50 assumption fee, why not lend the same money over and over and over to different buyers that are going to buy this in a certain period of time? That makes sense to you? So they came up with a ruling. They said, hey, you know what, we want to be able to, due on sale. If you sell the house, you have to pay off all the money that you owed. And if you don't, we'll foreclose you and take the property from you. Now most of the time that'll scare the bejesus out of people, right? They will say, I don't want to be foreclosed on, I've got good credit, I want to keep it that way. But typically, here's what a bank does with your financing. You borrowed this mortgage right here. You signed on it. It's on your house. You give it to the bank, they give you the money. They've got the mortgage. What they want to do, what you've heard recently in the news, is I want to sell this to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, the Federal National Mortgage Association, okay? So they're a buyer. So Fannie and Freddie have money that they want to buy mortgages with. So with that money, they say, what do you got there? You got a $100,000 mortgage? Yeah, sure, I'll buy that. Here's your money back, bank. And of course, the bank charges you some fees or points, so they get to keep that portion. Fannie, Freddie hold the mortgage, and the banks back out into the market, okay, with new money to loan. So, who wants to borrow money? Sharon comes up and says, I'd like to borrow mortgage, and they have the money. And the reason they have the money is because they were able to sell this mortgage to Fannie Mae. Now what's happening is, Fannie's not buying, right? And Freddie's broke. So when the bank loans you the money, the reason they want to do on sale is so that they're assured if your name, see, this is a perfect little box, isn't it? It has everything on it. It's green like money. And what happens is it says, Linda borrowed this money from me, and so Linda owns the property, and Linda is the payer. So it's perfect. So when they package that little thing and walk it over to Fannie, Fannie can say, yeah, it looks good, everything's in order. But what happens if Linda borrowed the money? She didn't obey the rules of due on sale, but she sold it to Sharon. And now when they get the title back on the property, it says Sharon owns it and Linda owes it. Wait, that doesn't go together. So that means they don't want to buy that mortgage from the bank. So the bank turns around and says, all right, I couldn't sell it. Give me the money back because you transferred it. So that allows them to get this money back in their pocket so they can loan it to somebody else and, of course, collect fees. So that's a little trip around the mortgage. Who in here has borrowed money and then only to get a letter a few months later that says, we bought your mortgage, right? So then that's a whole new set of coupons. And then a few months later, you get a new letter, a new set of coupons that says, don't pay the other guy, pay me now. That's because it's being traded between institutions. And there are servicing rights and all those different things. So that's what's happening to your mortgage because this is a negotiable instrument. It can be purchased, it can be sold, it can be split in two, it can be all these things. You just still owe the debt. But lo and behold, if you sell it, if you sell the property, they want that to be done because they want that perfect little box, right? They want you to be the owner of the home and you to be the one paying it so that it's more valuable when they're trading it. Can you imagine why it wouldn't be as valuable if Linda borrowed it but Sharon owns it? Now the person that owes the debt is no longer entitled to the property, so it's not as valuable when it's being traded on the secondary market. So, due on sale. Getting back to my original point here, if you can get a mortgage that's not due on sale, which, by the way, most standard mortgages since January 1st of '86 state that it's right there in the terms. But if you go private financing with contracts between owners and sellers, there's a good chance that it's not going to be due on sale. The other thing that they can't control here is a lease done between the current owner who owes the mortgage and a prospective buyer, which is a lease with an option. Won't invoke a due on sale unless it's a long term. I've never seen one invoked from a lease with an option to buy. So therefore, that is in fact a contract. Okay? That's a contract, and one person takes over the rights of ownership while the other person pays for it. So if Sharon were to buy the property from Linda, she could pay monthly and lock in the purchase price and control the equity growth. That's a sale. We just have to educate them a little bit. Find out what your buyers want. Find out what they need.